Afternoon, everyone. This is part 7 of my tournament prep, and if you've made it this far and you're on part 7, you're probably committed to some extent to listening to me. I will apologize. I feel like a lot of my videos, especially coming up to the end, my tournament is in less than 2 weeks. They're going to be very nichely specific and focused. It's not like this big broader topic. For example, I've spent a lot of time last video talking about 17th threat and why kind of Frank is in my list, and now that kind of went to the conversation of 18. Okay, so what are my 18 options? Is there something I can do with that last spot where Thor is to make my 18s better? And I've just been doing a lot of thinking about 18. I think because I played a game at 18 and I had to take kind of like a weird roster. It didn't work, but I guess the point being is when I dropped Werewolf was there for 18 with like Voodoo, Red Skull, Blade, and Mummy. No, not Mummy. Voodoo, Red Skull, Blade, and Werewolf. Yeah, just those 4. And without him, because I don't think he's in here, if that's his only use, I don't think I need him. But it got me kind of flowing on or thinking about 18 a lot more. And because 18 is a threat value that only matters when my opponent picks it, because I don't have any 18s. So the only time I'm going to have to play 18 is Hammers or Montesi with priority. And I think both of these, Hammers is very popular. So it could definitely be something that comes up. So I do want to talk about a little bit in some of my 18 ideas and whether or not I need a splash, a specific splash to handle it. All right. So let's look at the roster real quick. We've all seen the roster. It's nothing crazy. All right. So Wong is where Thor is, and he's part of a talk about the 18. So I just wanted to talk about setups, and I do want to do some mimicking, some turn 1 ideas. I think I did some at the end of my last video, so I might be repeating myself slightly there, but I have some other ones I want to talk about. So we're always taking Blade. We talk about this. It's Montesi or it's Hammers. I think they're different. Obviously, I think Hammers is the more dynamic one in this particular instance, and this is a good exercise to go through because the other thing to remember is you can only get these on your secures because I don't have them, right? So I can only get them on Demons, Infinity, and currently these are my 3 secures. And obviously if I change one of them, it could change this as well. So that's good to keep in mind because you're really talking about 6 scenarios you have to talk about, and you have priority in all of them, right? So 3 secures with both the extracts, all at 18 in this particular instance. And then you can always assume, you can't always assume, but you can assume in this case you have priority each time. So you're picking 18, or they're picking 18, and you say, okay, well, what was my list before? It was Red Skull, Blade, Voodoo, and pretend A-Bomb was Werewolf, right? It's not Werewolf. Okay, so I don't have him, so I can't do that roster anymore. All right. Obviously, if I want to take Red Skull, you kind of come at a crossroads here where you can't take Voodoo and Red Skull together. Oh, you can with this list. Sorry. I forgot that I had Wong in this roster. So you can do like Wong, Lockjaw, which I don't think is good. You could do Lockjaw, Mummy. No, you can't. It's these 2. It's okay. I don't have an issue with these. I do think there are combos that are better, so I don't look to that one. I do think if you don't take Voodoo, you can do like an interesting 18 here where you at least have 5 pieces that are kind of interesting. And I've tried this roster before, and it's fine. I think it depends on the setup. I think maybe I like it more on a D shape, but the ones I've been thinking about there's 2 of them. Is there only 2? I think there's 2. It's this one. Okay, so there's one that puts in Red Skull and Hulk, right? So I think I Hulk is a good shout for Hammers a lot of the time. because they're stackable. If you have prio, he can safe grab ones. He can start on one of the hammers. There's just a lot of things that benefit iHawk. And I think I talked about this setup in my last video, and I don't think A-Bomb and Frankenstein ever come into play. You can use A-Bomb. He's good on hammers. He can start in the middle, grab one, go to either side. Like some of these things, actually, that I'll talk about with like Hawk, work for A-Bomb from a pressure perspective. Does it work from the perspective of you can't fit it in the list because you need Hawk to be affiliated? So that's a team. That's one reason. So I think there's this team. We'll talk about two of them. This is the first team, right? This is the first team. This one. And with prio, you can do some interesting things. Again, I don't know if I talked about this or not, but you could do this. You know, it depends on. Actually, this would be better on. We'll start with Cosmic Invasion because I think that it's more interesting that way. Or no, I think the Infinity is interesting, but it's just different. So if you start on Cosmic Invasion, you know, if you put... Actually, one thing to note is if you put Hulk on this point, he could be pushed off. I haven't thought of all the ramifications of this if he does get pushed off, but you could also just put Wong like right behind him because what Wong is going to do, he doesn't need any more range than that. And then use basically, you know, these could be your first two activations since they really, you know, they tell a story of exactly what's going to happen. Hulk's going to be in the middle. Wong's going to be behind him to stop the push backwards. So if they push you, they can only go side to side, which is still annoying, but you live with it. There's probably a small world where it, like, to be completely honest with you, the way this setup works, you don't need, like, you actually don't need Hulk to touch the middle. Like, you could go a little bit farther back. In fact, actually, if he touches the middle, can you get screwed by it? I mean, this is something to note. The setup, if you can just go base to base, so they can only go parallel. So they can only go like this. How far do you go? Oh, we have snap for deployment on. I'm curious because, okay, well, just look at the setup, and then we can talk about that. You're gonna put Skull on one side, right, with the hammers, and then you could put the grunts here too, right? You can do something like this, thread in this one, and then you probably put blade here, right? So you do something like this, and maybe it looks innocuous, maybe it doesn't, but you have priority. I'd probably want to put these two first, and then Skull and blade, whatever. And you're basically deciding which side you want to go to with Skull. So the idea here being is you're going to safe grab one with Skull. So you're probably going to do something like move the grunts. You know, double walk the grunts. Oh my god, this. Right. You're going to do something like double walk the grunts. Oh my god. You're going to put him here. You're going to safe grab with Skull. Remember to bump first. It's easier to get the exact movement on the back end. And then you're going to walk Skull this way. Some point backwards are safe, right? It may feel dumb because you're not putting him here, and it really depends on what's across from you, right? If somebody's across from you, like something that can really hurt Skull, don't freaking stay there. You know, walk away. If somebody can't hurt him, maybe you stay there, but maybe not because you probably want to rotate the other way. And this is why the grunts are so annoying, because the grunts are here. They're 3 health. They're not super easy to kill. They count as, you know, alive. They'll always come back if something happens. So like, does somebody just double walk there and now you're basically grunts for a normal person? Do they try to kill him? But not many people can attack the grunts and get on the point, you know, depending on what they are. You know, a Shang can, for example. Actually, Shang gets screwed because he's placed afterwards. So, like, if Shang actually kills the grunts, he doesn't get on the point, which is actually hella annoying in that particular case. Wow, that was something I saw the other day. That actually is very annoying. That would have screwed him. Damn. And then Skull's safe, but Skull also is like has the range if somebody goes on there to like bump back and shoot him. You probably want to keep yourself like within range 4 of this thing, because he's a threat range of 9 essentially. So if you're within range, if like the 4 covers the top of the token, it means you can always bump and double tap somebody. Anyway, that's not the point. The point being is you want Skull to go back. Right now you're putting some pressure on them on this side. Now you've safe grabbed one. You have yours. They're probably not threatening to take yours, to be completely fair. And they probably have to think about this one. So their thought process might be, well, you're going to pick up this hammer and maybe you can't get here, or you can just walk yourself over there. Blade isn't like a ton of threat behind here because he can't get to that point. I do think you don't have to safe grab this one. This is where like I talk about options, right? Look at the board, put yourself in a position to where you have options. That is the biggest thing I can honestly tell you. And I talked to Shadow Marvel for like 2 hours last night with a board out, and we were just going through at Midnight Suns things, list ideas, whatever. There are positions in this game where models can be to make multiple choices. Try to take advantage of that as many places that you can, if possible. So that's where understanding your ranges is really important. This is not a huge one because like there's not like many little movements to worry about. But what I mean is, you can set up with the intention to safe grab this hammer. If the enemy only puts like something shitty across from this one, like feel free to go take this one with Blade if you think you can survive, whoever's going to be there, and say, hey, now you're going to take the one across from Red Skull, and I'm going to fuck you. So I'll give you an example. Let's say they have a normal Namor here, right? No extra power or anything. And you have, your Skull here, and they put, I don't know, some shitbag that would be go picking it up that's not good against Skull. You could go with Blade first and pick it up, because Namor is only going to get one shot at you. And he's not that good against... Like, he's fine against Blade, but assuming you have priority, you might just be fine. And then, like, if you go take this one, and they don't take this one, like, you just go get it for free with Skull, or you double walk Hulk to get it, right? Pick up, double walk, bump, and get both. And now you have 3 of them, and if you have priority, all you have to do is rotate Blade back, and, like, now all the hammers on one side of the board. The point being is, be adaptable, that you could do the other one. So in this particular case that we're talking, we're thinking like, oh, the enemy comes and takes this one with somebody, right? With like somebody. And so what you do now is, you want Hulk to go here. They have the hammer though. How can you punish this, right? Wisdom says if you pick up this, double walk, bump, you won't have any actions. You'll just be standing next to this hammer user. Even if Wong gives a power to Mortal Hulk, he doesn't have the power to get the hammer or to bump with a 1 below all. If he picks up the hammer, he can't pick up the hammer, walk, bump, because 1 below all costs 3 with a hammer. So what's the play? I think I talked about in my last videos. You can jump, pick up the hammer, walk, bump. So the one, I was thinking about this, and I was like, how can I, when you're measuring range 2, you can't put down the measuring range 1, and the distance between getting here and getting here is tight. Like, it's not nothing. Like, the margin for error is like, I think, to here or something, like a 2.2 inches, so it's not easy. But I did think of a way that you can pretty much guarantee the distance. So when you go with Wong, because you're gonna give Hulk a power anyway, you go like this, right? Measure 1 from it, and then move Wong to right here, right? If you move Wong to right there, then when you jump with Hulk, you just have to base Wong here, and he'll be in range perfectly. Right, so the being said, you give Hulk a power. You walk to exactly here. You pick up that hammer after you jump. Right, so you're gonna have 4 power. You 1 below all. You pick up the hammer. You still have both actions. You do a short walk, short move, and then you do a bump. and now you're on the point. You get to attack whoever this is. Maybe it's somebody strong, maybe it's not. You're rolling 8 dice against their however many. If you get the throw, even if they're on the back end, you can throw them off the point. I think it's almost... Yeah, so a medium, I guess it's just mathematically, right? If they're within 1 of this, a short move is slightly longer than the range. So like, okay, 1 inch here to 1 inch here plus a 1 inch token is 3 inches, which is range 2. This widget is slightly longer than a range 2, which means there'll always be too much room on one side. You always get them off the point. So if you roll a wild, you will get them off the point if you want. And the terrain pending, whatever. You throw them here. Boom. Maybe they took a lot of damage. Maybe you got power to do a throw. Either way, Blade basically gets to start in range if he wants. He could do one of two things. He could just start up by shooting and hope to get the hit and get the small move, right? You could just move up or short move. And then you could do it again, right? You could do this again if you wanted. You could bump closer and then try to get the short move through them to get on the point if you wanted. Maybe they're dead already. Maybe you just walk up and attack them once with your katana. I mean, in this setup, you're probably going to have priority. You're only 4 wide at 18. You just kill him and take the hammer with Eyehawk at the top of your turn. And maybe rotate him back with, a bump and stuff and be your Wong. So that's like the pressure, right? So now you basically say, I have a hammer. Let's just say it goes well. Or even doesn't go well and you just do a couple damage or whatever. You have a hammer on Hulk, who's usually very hard to get rid of it. Unless you have a steal. You have a hammer on Skull, who's kind of like in the back, ready to do what he needs to do. You have Blade being an asshole, whatever. You have Wong on the back point, and you have the grunts taking this one, which is kind of twofold, right? They have to do something about it, and they're free. And then if you do happen to go with like Skull first or something, depending on what happens over here, you can just make the grunts again, walk them back here, be annoying, or if you feel like they've overloaded here, you could make the grunts here, walk here, and then rotate, Wong here. You could, put the grunts here and then wait till the end of the turn and then run Wong over here because Wong can make it with bump. Like, there's a lot of little things you can do depending on what happens to kind of have this advantage where you have hammers on 2 very strong people. You potentially got another hammer, and now you're up 3-1, and who knows where their backhammer person gone, and now the fight has to take place on your side. Plus, you're basically 5 wide with the grunts and Wong. Okay, it's not the most powerful. I mean, it's probably pretty powerful pieces. You still have 4. Wong is not on your team. You have 3 powerful pieces, and then like combined together, they do some stuff. So that's a cool team. And I think if you have Wong, I think I was talking to Boots about this, and that's kind of like the idea I came up with, where I'm like, how can you punish people and take advantage of things? So I actually kind of really like that team. I think it's pretty cool. This is one of the 18. So do we continue talking about this 18? Let's go to the other one real quick, which is... So essentially, in both these teams, you're taking Blade and Eyehawk. Probably fair because it's hammers and he's good on hammers. And then you're really debating between Voodoo and Lockjaw and these ones, right? So, it's kind of an interesting decision point. I don't know which one I like more. In fact, I wish I could play this more to test it. I don't think I like this as much without priority. I'm not gonna lie. I think I prefer to have priority if I'm going to do this. So I don't I'm not jumping at the bit or chomping at the bit to go get to put hammers back in my roster. So I don't know which one's better, but I have some cool plays with the other one too. So with the same idea in mind, again, I'm trying to focus on to get people to understand setups, think about them, but also have options, right? Be able to pivot. Don't be rigid in what you're doing. So the setup with this one is pretty similar, I'd say. Hulk needs to... He doesn't have to be on the point. If you're worried about like the Cosmic Invasion pushing, just put him back a little bit, because I guess the fact is that to get to here, like won't like Hulk has to bump at some point. So whether you just bump initially back into range 1 and then double walk, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter like if you're off the point a little bit. So obviously if it's like extremist hammers, which wouldn't happen, don't worry about it. But you can be off of it. So this is the other setup that I find kind of interesting. It's very similar. I know you can't measure this perfectly in actual game, but you know you can find a way to do it closely. And then you want to put Blade like right next to him like this, right? So this is your, and I guess the dog should be. Can you do anything? This is what I want to measure. I guess technically if the dog is next to iHawk. The problem is if iHawk goes first. What if he's just across from him? There's two like ideas here. Is this the one that works? Does this work? I think the dog is too far. So like if he was base to base. I'll tell you why it matters in a little bit. But if he was here, it'd have to be there. I don't think he can make it to that hammer, can he? Let's just see. If he makes it to the hammer, it's different. I don't think he does. I think it's too close. Or too far. Yeah, I think it's not far enough. Alright. So, the dog can't do that. Okay. Does that change anything? Does Blade matter? What if Blade's like here? I want the dog within 2 people because there's a world with Prio that Hulk goes before the dog at some point. But maybe he doesn't ever go before the dog. Maybe that's just a lie I've told myself. Is it something like this? I know it can't be Blade first. Okay, it's like that. Blade's here. This is here. I don't know if this is. Does he make it? No, I think he doesn't make it. Fuck. I guess the question is, I know, guys. I haven't thought this one through. I haven't thought every iteration of this through. Like, he makes it. So if he goes backwards towards deployment, I guess the real calculation would be: is there a world where range 3 and a bump gets the dog here, the dog is within range 3 of Voodoo, and Voodoo can do the same thing? I don't think so, and maybe it doesn't matter that much. Let's just do the normal setup I had before. It was something like this, right? So the idea here is, again, you have Prio with hammers, and you go... all right, you have 2 options to start. Either Lockjaw safe grabs this hammer, and then you kind of have a different series than you had before. So if let's say Lockjaw safe grabs this one, he would end up like here, right? He would just grab it, whatever. He ends up back here, whatever range 1 is, and then moving backwards. Oh my god! Right. And he would move back probably towards the back D. Right, so he's somewhere back here. And then the enemy has to basically take this one, which is in front of Voodoo. And now if that happens, similar to before, except you don't have Wong extra power. So I think in this case you just walk 1 below all, bump. Don't pick up this one. Hit this person. You know. Hit him once. Try to throw him backwards. And then have Voodoo double tap him. And then Blade comes across here. And... can he do it? I don't know. He feels like he's short. Fuck. I really wanted Blade to be within range 2 of the dog. No. Can Blade... I think he's just short. Is that impossible? I guess that's a interesting question. Like, if you were to do it perfectly, which is the dog here, the dog walks to this point, and then within 2 of the dog, I guess it perfectly does work if you do it. Like, that's like pixel perfect, it feels like. But I guess if you could pull it off, you have a little leeway. Like, the ideal would be something like this, where Blade has a hammer, the dog has a hammer. Whoever went over here gets hit by Eyehawk, and then Voodoo comes up and maybe attacks him, maybe double taps him, and then you have 3 hammers, and you're positioned something like this. The upside and downside is, compared to the other setup, is okay, you don't have the hammer on him, you have the hammer on 2 weak people, you don't have Red Skull 2. You don't have the grunts over here to be annoying. The advantages to you would be, you have both of these in case, and probably Voodoo. I mean, you have a Voodoo who can steal, so later in the game it becomes a lot more powerful. You have a dog who can teleport people around. Maybe in other setups the dog's a little bit better. One thing, the reason I like this is that's like the most boring setup. Like, you're going to safe grab the one side. I think the other setup that's kind of cool is, well, there's 2, I guess, would be, depending on what they do, is I do see a world where you just raw grab Blade, right? So depending on who they have to get their hammer going, you just raw grab it with Blade, right? And then depending on what they do, if they go after this one, you now say, I'm going to teleport, Eyehawk here, walk and pick up this hammer with him. This is the worst case scenario for them, because now you've got a hammer on him, and now Eyehawk just needs to freaking leap, and he gets to double tap whoever took your hammer. That's pretty good. You could also do something like, depending on where to deploy, like, and if you're going to raw grab it with Blade, you don't even need to be out that far. You could be like here or something, right? You could be a lot closer in. Because there could also be a world where, like, you start with Eyehawk and just double grab over here, and then, Voodoo could be a little more over, I guess. There's some distances you have to work out. Where, like, now you could say, all right, I'm going to go with Lockjaw, walk onto the back point because you want him there. Walk here. And then, if Voodoo was around, port Voodoo up to whoever's here, and you get a double tap on Voodoo and 2 Hawks on Hammer. I don't know if that's actually good or not. I still think this one is actually a pretty cool setup, depending on what you're against. But I think both of them actually have a lot of play. I think both these teams actually can do a lot of pressure on objectives. I kind of like the Red Skull one more in just how it looked on the board, but maybe that's because of the grunts. I think it's kind of both. I think the very opening sequence of safe grabbing a hammer and threatening the other one with Eyehawk and the Wong power has its own advantages. And then I think this one has it's much more punishing if you let Blade grab the hammer without any real big I don't know what I'm trying to say. What am I trying to say? If you let Blade grab the hammer without any real big getting hit by damage, you're in a pretty good spot. Because, like, I think it's more punishing to have Voodoo and Hulk come after this hammer than it is to have, like, Wong here, Red Skull here, and it's just, the other 2. So I think both those are actually really good teams, and it makes me want to maybe put Wong in. Just for that. But I guess the other thing I was thinking about when it came to Wong was, I guess I do like that he fills this role. I guess it's really for 18. Like, do I want the Red Skull team or not with the 2. I feel like I would like the Wong team more if I had an 18 myself, but maybe I'm mistaken. I do think Infinity, we're going to just go really quick about this, is interesting as well, and I think really good if you have Prio, because you can do something kind of similar to before, where if we look at maybe the Wong team first, it's different. The Wong team's, I think, worse in this instant, but, you know. You could do something, I don't know, along here maybe. I mean, that's not bad. Where now you could essentially pick which side you wanted. I guess maybe Blade doesn't have to. You could see what they're doing and double grab a hammer instantly. So the only thing I like about this on Infinity is his base is so big that when you grab the first hammer, you can essentially be back here, right? So you can fit between both. So having Ihawk on that shape is really good. Like, even if it's like Virus or something, having Ihawk be able to go between the 2 is like super sweet. And I probably should consider that more when I play on like 19 Virus or something, that he can do that. The other note being that, you know, you could either run Wong behind him to heal him, because you're going to have 2 hammers, right? And now this hammer is being threatened by like Skull Shooting and Blade. And it's actually not that oppressive. Yeah, that's actually not like super oppressive. Your rotation isn't as good. It's still fine. I think Wong just feels less good here because you don't, like, 5 models is great, but 2 of them being kind of shitty doesn't really help you. This is where I actually kind of like the other team more. Let me see if it actually feels better on the board. I haven't done the whole shebang yet, but I think it works. I think you do something like this. Like, you definitely have, like, so you put this down, and then you probably put Blade down near the middle. And then at this point, I think you decide, like, you want to see where the enemy puts their shit, and then you decide which way Voodoo wants to go and which way the dog wants to go. Ooh. It's not as amazing as I like. I guess maybe you commit to something like this. Though the dog could go on the other side. I guess it doesn't matter. What you're trying to do is, you're trying to say, Ihawk's going to go to one side. It's kind of what you did before. It depends on if they have safe grab or not. But I guess you can do it without really thinking about it. Because if you put them, the closer you put everybody to the middle, the more decisions you have. Maybe you could do something like this. Like, what you're trying to do, I'm trying to think of is, my first activation is going to be Ihawk to pick up 2 hammers. Not the prettiest, not the sexiest move, but it's a good move nonetheless. And the reason I'm trying to do that is, I want to see which side is the weakest, and then, I mean, he's fucking Ihawk. It's an 18. He's an Ihawk with 2 hammers, and if they can't deal with him, they're in deep shit. Like, he's going to have 2 hammers rolling 9 dice and just spiking the shit out of people. So they have to deal with him. So he basically controls 3 objectives turn 1 because he picks up 2 and he's standing on Infinity. Yes, he's in front and somebody can attack him, but you're going to have Prio. Like, your turn might just be walk up and like blast them, right? And now they still have to go get this one. And so I guess my thought process was, you know, is there a way? So now we have Lockjaw, and you could do 2 things. Lockjaw could be on this side, right? And you could threaten the safe grab of him. And obviously, if they have a safe grab, you just can run to the side. Their safe grab is on. And the other thing I'm thinking about is, and I need to, you know, maybe think more. I guess since you always have to bump, you don't have to start on this one. Like, if you started over, I wonder how far over you can go and get to the point. That's actually like a good experiment real quick. So I guess the best way to do this would be to start on one hammer, right? And put a Hulk out. And then work backwards. Sometimes you want to work backwards. So I put my Hulk here. I walk once. I walk again. So as long as your bump can get you basically on top of the hammer, you're okay. So I guess if you were to deploy off to the side, like here, how far do you get? Yeah, I think that's more than enough. So I guess, because obviously you can make it this way. I guess you can make it farther than it looks. Like putting him here. And now he'll definitely make it in double moves. Because you're only going to double move to like one. Yeah, okay. I think you have some leeway there if you want to. Okay, that's good to know. Okay, anyway. You don't have to put him directly on the middle, which is interesting. Just close enough to do the double thing. You could like put the dog in the middle. I guess what you're trying to do is you're trying to take one of these, and then you're trying to threaten with voodoo on the other one, right? So you want to be able to like teleport voodoo. I wonder if you could do it like if he's in the middle. Maybe that's something to consider. If you can set up something where now voodoo's in the middle, Hulk is here. The dog, I guess he has to kind of pick a side, which is okay. Maybe pick the side you'd lean to one way or the other. Maybe you can put blade here. And now you can safe grab either side, and then let's just measure from the farthest point, which is this. Can he make it there? You could teleport voodoo instantly. And then he could bump to the point. And now, unless that was safe, you could double tap whoever's on there, and either the dog can teleport, walk and bump himself on the point, or I guess sending Blade that way really isn't that useful. It depends. Blade could do whatever. The idea is that, you could end the turn with like a double hammers on this side, and, the dog and Blade somewhere where he needs to be. And you could maybe get a double tap on these and maybe steal at turn one. So now you have 3 hammers. And then with Lockjaw, you kind of have this turn one stuff where you could say, all right, unless iHawk's threatened, you could like use him to, rotate Voodoo back out this way. He could bring himself back out this way. He'd have another power from the point. And, he could bump. And now you could start bringing everybody, depending on where Blade is. You have 3 hammers and you rotate everybody this way. And maybe Blade stays behind or something, or he's over here. Or the vice versa. You have all the hammers over here. And one of your activations, depending on who's over here, is to bring Hulk back this way and kind of create a bunker on one side of the bees where you have 3 hammers, and you have this cocoon of people that can defend. This one might be better than the Red Skull version on this map. I don't know. I really like this version. I think it has a lot of potential. I haven't played with it enough. I think on demons and stuff, they're probably on par. It's probably a little different on demons. Honestly, demons is probably the other version, because Red Skull can grab this one. Like, I really want to go through all of them. Already here. Already doing it. My kid's asleep. Whatever. Let's put it out. Let's look at it. Demons provides a little bit different. This one is what it is. Like, I like it both. Dislike both teams. One thing I like about this one is you have a very easy back point center in the grunts. You could even move the grunts forward if your Wong's going to stand back here. Sending iHawk to a side hammer is not exactly like horrible. Like, safe grabbing this hammer and having one of them is good. Now they have to kind of put one out here. You can go attack them. Hope with priority. You could, if you really wanted, you could run the grunts to the middle and say, all right, well, Wong is going to stand here. If you want to kill my grunts, sure. Like, it's not a big deal to have them come back, with Skull. I do wonder. I don't think it makes it distance-wise, but let's measure it. If Skull was to walk exactly back towards the back, does he make it with the grunts on the drop? I don't know. So if the grunts drop next turn, yeah. So you could, like, if they kill the grunts in the middle, you could drop back with him to where he's here, and then when he activates, you could drop the grunts here and either walk to the middle if you put him here, or you could just shoot from where they are and be on the back point and say, okay, I'm on the back point. And then something similar over here where, I don't know, Blade maybe isn't, since there's no D over here, you still want to make it here to attack the person, but now that you're going to throw him towards Blade, maybe he's over here more. I don't know. Playing off the points a little bit in the beginning, but putting in a lot of pressure on the hammers. Is the other team any better at it? I mean, you still have a pretty good center. Like, I mean, I like this 16, and like I don't mind Wong in this setup. I know the whole point of Red Skull was to like replace Wong, but healing these two models like isn't bad. Having the grunts on this shape is pretty good damage. Like, I guess the point is you're 4 wide. And while Wong doesn't directly contribute to priority, like it's kind of a detriment. Most people are 4 or 5 wide on this. Like, most people aren't going 3 wide at 18. It's you can. To where I still think, like, in this kind of matchup, having Wong here isn't actually a bad thing. On a D map, it's a little less because the grunts don't have to. But now you can start sending your grunts forward if you want. More control the center later on to get points. You're gonna have hammers. Both these models are really good with hammers. If it's Montesi, I think... How does the other one work here? I haven't thought through the other one. It's not as cool, I don't think. Okay, it's cool that Voodoo is immune. You don't really want to put people in the back. I mean, these two are fine. I guess you don't have the same pressure. Like, you don't really want to just raw double grab with him. In my opinion, it's cooler on Infinity because he's on the secure as well. And that just puts a lot of pressure. Especially because, like, the rotation, like them committing to one side of the Infinity, you have a lot of movement to get the other way. Like, I feel like Lockjaw is a little bit yet less useful on this one. But Voodoo's good. I think they're both good. Like, this is one where probably I'd want this version. I mean, I'd probably just want them to play 19 if I could really choose. But I think they both have merits. I think they both have merits here. I don't know which one I would choose. Is that enough to put Wong in the roster? I'm not sure. So that's kind of the conversation then. If Wong fills an 18, which is too... Montesi is probably less to think about. You're going to have priority. Use a safe grab to get the middle Montesi. Figure out ways to, like, take advantage of having both of them and having the extract lead, because you're going to naturally have it there. And, putting one on Hawk and maybe one on a safe grabber and just trying to stay alive. You can kill people. It's probably just a strong play. So I won't talk about Montesi. That's a little bit easier. This, I don't know. Does Wong solve any other issues? If he's only solving 18, then is that... I mean, that's not nothing. It's a good 18. It gets you to use Red Skull more. I kind of like it. It lets you scale... If there's one thing Wong does, is it lets you scale this team to any threat. Right? This, Mummy, and then Voodoo or Frank at 20. It does let you scale that team up the whole way, which is kind of cool. I guess the other thing about Wong is... So I was talking to Shadow Mar about this. Is unlike an Out-Affiliation 4 or an Out-Affiliation 3 or something, or even an Out-Affiliation 2, because Bullseye doesn't work here with the setups, is it gives you a weird option that some people not won't see, but it gives you some weird options like that are kind of unique, and I don't know if I'd ever use them. I think the big one being like, okay, I want I think the one that came to mind was this, where you can now run this really cheap core of 9, and it opens up this at 17. I don't know if I like this one at 17. It opens it up if you ever want to do some weird shit. I don't actually think that's good at all. I think opening up, because I don't think he's not strong enough. I guess this at 18 is pretty decent, actually, if you don't go the iHawk route. Again, I mean, you might choose 18 depending on the scenario yourself. He's pretty okay with Frank, I guess. I guess the other one was like this 19, right, where you have double safe grabs. Yeah, this is like not a terrible 19, I think. It's different. You're basically saying I want Ape Bomb and Wong over iHawk. Is that good or bad? I'm not sure, but maybe there's setups where maybe it's on scrolls. This is what okay. The one thing I like about this is if you have priority on scrolls and your demons, you could get this team, and it doesn't look the greatest on paper, maybe, but like it actually is okay on scrolls because you have 2 safe grabs. You're gonna have priority. You can steal their safe grab, steal theirs. Technically, if you wait long enough with Wong, you can give a power to Blade or Mummy to safe grab the your own. So like, you can threaten one side with. Should we do it? Are we here? Let's do it. Last one. Last one. Why not? Why do I make these videos if not to do this? I need to get scrolls out. I mean, to be fair, like I actually don't dislike this team that much. And maybe it doesn't feel the greatest on demons, I guess. Only because like you don't need this many bodies, but I guess if you're getting an extract advantage, it's not that big a deal. This is just where you do that thing I drew up before, where okay, you know the grunts would be out here, but I guess the grunts the grunts feed Mummy. The grunts can just walk to the center if you want. Which actually isn't like a bad deal. So like if you did something like I don't know. Something like this, for example, right? Put the grunts here, long blade. I don't know. Let's just assume it's something like this. What's your play? You have priority. You safe grab one with skull, so he probably ends up here, depending on what you do. You can move the grunts. You can kind of be a little bit annoying by standing in front of yours to make it a little bit harder to grab it. But you also run the risk of, like, if they do grab yours, they're not going to grab yours. Are they? I don't think so. If they do grab yours, they could grab it here. I know they're going to get screwed. They're going to get pushed some way. But think about it. It might make it harder to grab it here, for example. Or they could just stand back here. It doesn't matter. I kind of like it for, like, the purpose of, like, if Mummy ever grabs here, you can make it so you don't need the Wong power. You just sit on it, and you can't be pushed forward. But now, okay, you grab this one. They have to choose between these two. Whichever one they don't pick, you grab it with A-Bomb. We've talked about this before. He can threaten both. He can threaten all three, essentially. If they go to the outside, they're kind of out in Shitville for a while. If they don't go to the outside, you can just bump, towards theirs. I think you got to start a little bit closer. Actually, that's right. It's a good distance to, like, understand. How close do you have to start? I think you have to start, like, right on the side of the center. I think this distance is... This is 12.3. 11.3. What's the distance of his moving? 5 for the medium base, 5 inches for that. 6 inches of movement plus 2 bases. 2 bases is 5 inches, so it's 11 plus the 1 inch of the thing. Yeah, so that's about where you want to be. F1. You want to be a little bit to the right. You want to be like here, and then that basically gets you there. Obviously, terrain dependent, but you should get there pretty easily on both. I don't actually know if it's that close. Maybe it's closer than it looks. You're fine. Anyway, you threaten both of them, and now you have 2, and basically they have to come try to dive yours, and you can go get it. Obviously, this would actually be a little bit better if you had Danny at 20, because Danny, I've talked about it, can safe grab this one. But I guess at this setup too, with 19, where Danny would be Wong, or I guess you could take Voodoo if you wanted at 22 and have Wong still. Point being is put on the pressure, and you still have a lot of damage in like these pieces where you can basically now say, okay, I guess the argument would be as 7 threat combined, this is a good bit of damage, and he does help heal and get conditions off people. Wong, that is. And maybe in this setup, he's not as a detriment from a... Depends on how tall you think the enemy is going to go. If you think they're going to go like super tall and you need Eyehawk, put him in there. Is this 18? This is not 18. This is 19. But yeah, that's a cool little option. I don't know, Wong gives you a couple like little options like that where if you want to go not as wide, you could go 20 with like this and 2 5s. I just talked about it. Like that's not a bad 20. You know, it gives you a 16 that splits up Hulk if you don't want to go combined into here. You know, the lockjaw. I don't think the lockjaw one's good. I don't think you take a lockjaw with Wong most of the time. I don't know. It's kind of like the commentary on it. Like, is there anything he does? It's not that. But Wong does not help there. I guess you could go 20 like this. You could always do this. Oh, this is where Red's Call could be these two, I guess. I don't know. It's really to help 18 and then some other little ones if you want to be like cheeky about it. I don't know if it's good. But it might be one of those, you know, we talked about Thor, and like the amount that Thor comes up is so little as well. Like you're more likely to play on 18 than you are to play 17 on alien ship on demons, right? So like if that's the use case for Thor and maybe some other stuff, then why be a thing? So I definitely think the Wong interaction is kind of interesting. I talked about it in my last video that he might be Wong. And then I guess there is something to be said about like, should demons be the roster? I don't know for sure. I'm still not sold on demons. I think Fisk is also something interesting, especially if Wong helps Fisk scale up a little more. I'm still not sold on it. But yeah, that's part 7. Thanks for listening.